Joining me to talk about this, Dr. Paula Bloom, psychologist. Also with us, Tio Hardiman from the group Ceasefire, a Chicago project for violence prevention. And let's start there, guys. I think people see this at home and they're wondering, how can this happen? This is a good kid, an honor roll student. Now he's dead. Tio, I'll start with you on this one. What's going on here? As we heard the grandfather say, anger in the heart. Is that the seed of this?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of anger and frustration amongst the youth in Chicago right now. You know, the violence is passed down from generation to generation. It's learned behavior. And at Ceasefire, we do our best to try to change behaviors. And we've mediated about 200 conflicts like this already this year that could have led to an act of violence, you know, like this that happened to Darion. And I spent a lot of time with his family, his mother, and I really agree with the grandfather. There's just a spirit of anger and hopelessness in a lot of the youth throughout Chicago that would lead to this prey type of mentality to take the life of an honor roll student. And we have to stop this violence to the best of our ability. And one of the major obstacles in Chicago right now is a lot of the groups that are working to deal with stopping violence, they're divided. And we all need to come together and collaborate so we can work, you know, together.
Tio, hopefully this will do that. Paula, let's bring you in on the conversation. As we watch that, Paula, we all wonder, how could kids this age, 16, 17, 18, get that violent, where you're going to blindside someone with a 2x4 and punch a guy while he's defenseless? How do they get to that point?
You know, once you're involved and you're very angry and your lower brain, your reptilian brain, your primitive brain gets engaged, it's like you can't think. It's sort of, you go from 0 to 60 in a few seconds. And so what we need to do, and I think your guest just nailed it, is really helping teach people conflict resolution skills and how to really buy yourself time between thinking something or feeling something and acting. And I think that that's what's going on here, is that it just happens in a split second, and once you're there, it's like beyond control.
Yeah. Let's listen to someone. This is a witness who was there, witnessed the beating, and listen to her. She tries to process this.
It looked like 100 kids. I mean, we're talking about kids just all over the place, from every direction. There were kids hopping over cars. This is, again, what I'm seeing on the video. There were kids hopping over cars. There were kids had huge sticks. They were going after each other, and it would just seem as if it was not so much targeted, but it was random.
Okay, he brings up a good point. That was Milton there. Tio, the family believes that Darion was targeted for not joining a gang. Prosecutors saying innocent bystander. What are you seeing right now? What is the prevailing theory?
What we know for sure, there's a lot of issues in that particular community. And at Finger High School, you have some guys coming from another area in the city who aggress on the young guys that live around Finger High School. We know that for a fact. So there's been a history of violence in the area. So that's what the take I have on it, and that comes from talking to the family, talking to people around that particular community as well. Okay,
let's get a call in, guys. Don is with us in New Jersey. Hi, Don. Your comment or question here?
Yeah, I'm just calling about the people who are actually filming these crimes. Not once did you hear anybody say dial 911 during that video.
Yeah, I even believe someone, either the camera person or whoever was standing next to it who had the cell phone video, said zoom in. Paula, how does it become, like you talked about instantly becoming angry and becoming involved, how does someone instantly become a cameraman and lose all heart for someone who's laying there, as we find out, laying there dying?
I think that's a really, really good question. There has to be some degree of a disconnect. You know, when you're looking behind a camera, you're sort of removed from the situation. You know, I was actually thinking about all of those young people who watched this event. It almost reminded me of people who are in combat and sort of the post-traumatic stress that people observing such a horrible act where they feel powerless can get, not unlike a lot of the people in the war.
Hey, Tio, let me ask you that. Tio, will you have a chance to talk to some of the kids who were there and witnessed it, and what we can learn from it and get into their feelings and emotions, whether they were in there throwing punches, they were in there just trying to, or they were filming and watching and zooming in?
Well, you know, violence has become the norm. Violence is expected. You know, at Ceasefire, we're in a behavioral change business, and we try to change, you know, what's seen as normal to letting everybody look at it as if it's abnormal. I just want to say that. But, yeah, I've talked to some of the kids in the area, and most of the kids feel like they were helpless. They couldn't do anything. There were a couple of security people out there. You had a couple of police cars out there, and nobody just wanted to step up. It reminds me of a story out of New York City many years ago. A lady was brutally murdered in front of her building, and everybody thought somebody else called the police. And it took the guy 20 minutes to stab the lady to death.
Wow.
And that's what you have going on. People just feel that violence violence is acceptable, and nobody wants to be the leader to step up and try to avoid the temptations of peer pressure.
Yeah, man. All right, well, let's take a quick break, guys. More of your comments, your calls, 1-877-TEL-HLN's the number.